Evening, everyone. Welcome. It's April 2nd, 2035, 7:03 p.m. Welcome to the Capital Outlay Infrastructure Committee meeting. I am the chair, joined with the vice chair, Council Vice President Martin Tashnik. The other member, the third member, Councilor Carrie Blazinski. She's not able to be here with us this evening. She had a trip scheduled to Japan a year or so ago, so she's having a lot of fun out there. So she sends her best wishes and wishes she was here. Also, we have our council president, Mr. McCullough, and then Councilman Let the Shield here as well. Thanks for both for joining. We have mayor here, city attorney, our planning economic development director, our finance director to my left, your right. There are a few department heads in the audience. Your government affairs director, both chiefs of police and fire, library director, our communications director, so a few of them business staff here. This is maybe the 15th or 16th meeting we've had in the last year and a half. We have representatives from our vendors, Plain Moraine Real Point, which is our real estate consultant. We have representatives from Frank Rewald and Son, which is construction manager for City Hall. We have super design, there's an architectural team from HED, Design Works, and some other affiliate groups. So a lot of people here from the city side of staff, and I see some faces from our last committee meeting. So just to kind of familiarize everyone, this is a committee meeting. Committee meetings are not televised, but you are allowed to take pictures, videos, whatever you like. Committee meetings are meant to be a little more informal. We get a ton of information from these vendors and city administration. It's meant to ask a lot of questions from our side. So in terms of housekeeping, that's kind of how that structure works. The study meetings are formal meetings. They're televised. Those are on YouTube. They're on our Sing TV. We study issues, a whole host of issues, whereas the committee meetings are meant for specific items to go more detail-oriented to those specific items. And then regular council meetings, we will actually take those. So for your future calendars, I would put April 14th. Put April 14th on your calendar. That is going to be a study meeting. That will be televised, so if you want to come see our pretty faces in person, you can sit on your couch and watch us on TV. At that study meeting, we will be talking about this issue, this item, and then April 28th is when the regular meeting will be. Doesn't mean it will follow that direct course, but most likely, it's likely item will follow that course, so you won't put those dates on your calendar. Again, a little background story. This is the Civic Center, the subject matter on planning, design, and construction of the new Civic Center campus. This item has been in committee for quite a while now, and we have been discussing this item, talking to different vendors. We've hired the design team, the architect team, the master plan team. We've hired a construction manager for the City Hall project. I think we've hired a traffic consultant, we hired survey consultants. I think those are some of the nitty-gritty details. We'll be discussing this issue, and we're kind of close to the finish line now. So it's a lot of fun. I'd like to thank all my colleagues in City Council. We've participated in a lot of the meetings, hours and hours and hours of discussion, and we really get excited to see the audience here. I want to reiterate, always welcome to these meetings. We want participation. We want you to be here and see what's going on. And it's always encouraging because there's things that we are going to miss. So I think those are all my remarks. I don't know if I've just said anything. Council Badisca's out of town. Council, if you got anything, we'll go to Council first. Council's up your remarks. Bring that to the administration for a presentation. They're going to go through some things. Council will ask questions. There may be multiple rounds of questions back and forth. And then I think at that point, we're going to try to go to the audience for audience communication. You will have 2 minutes to talk about stuff that is important or some of the things that you would like to get out there. And then if there's more discussion, please email City Council, citycouncil@livonia.gov. Call us. I'm always available. Call, text, email, Facebook Messenger, whatever works best. I know I'd love to spend time, and I don't want to speak to my colleagues, but I know they will also spend time with themselves. Council, anything the administration needs? Well, awesome. Mayor, do you know what you stay here? Do you chill?
Well, good evening, Council, and I want to mirror your excitement tonight because you're right, Councilman Donovan. This is the next very important step in the decision-making process that you've engaged with us in, and I want to thank you again for all the time and attention you put into this. Not only have you met with us in these various 15 sessions that are very formal sessions, but many of you have met individually with department heads and myself to learn and get questions answered that you really wanted to dive in deeply on, and we appreciate that level of interest. So tonight, we're really coming together around that next very important step in the recommended ballot proposal that is going to improve our public safety buildings, our library. It's going to create an in-city plaza, park amenities, and a bikeway. And all of these are vital to the future of Livonia's downtown, or city center, as residents like to call it. So tonight, we're going to be presenting the committee with a request to turn to Livonia voters this August and ask them to invest in the future of our city. It happens to be our 75th anniversary, so we think there's no time like now to begin that investment. And I'm really glad that all of you have stood alongside of us and engaged with what I think is one of the most dedicated and really smart leadership teams that we have had in the city. This group of people is bringing you tonight their very best attempt at trying to figure out where a good rate is going to be for this fund. What's going to be a fair and affordable millage? What I love about the proposal tonight is that it does a couple of things, but most importantly, it reflects Livonia. It's smart, it accomplishes more with less, and it's affordable. And those are three of our trademarks, and I think you're going to see that reflected in the numbers here today. It's important to keep in mind that problems, what are the X's, I call them all the time, what are the X's that we're trying to solve for here? And what we're trying to do here tonight is to come up with what we call the triple win solution. That every solution that we have to one of the three challenges that we have before us is met with the same solution. And if we can find that triple win, I'm going to run you through what that looks like today. I think that's where we really have a program that deserves to come to our voters for their decision back in August. So let's start. We're going to recap just a little bit here. Challenge number one, our population is on a steady decline. A group of Livonia leaders began back in 2017 through the task force called Livonia Vision 21 to take a look at these numbers. And they noted that we were not keeping up with our peer communities. In fact, we were woefully behind even Wayne County. Wayne County was losing population of roughly 1%, and we were close to 3%. They also noticed that Livonia residents were staying in their homes longer. Now, that is a good thing. On the whole, that is a good thing. But it also meant that the age of our population was increasing, and we were not attracting young professionals for young families to move into our community. This ultimately, they understood, was going to lead to stagnation, a decline in resources to care for the things that we value most in our community. Things like public safety, our parks, reliable city services, community amenities like our library system, our rec center, transit services, senior services, and more. So then, that's challenge number one. Challenge number two comes along, and City Council in 2022 bravely decides that it's going to authorize a study of the largest consolidated area of city assets. That's at the corner of 5 Mount and Farmington, our Civic Center campus, and then take a look at also 4 of the ancillary fire stations. And why is this great? And you've heard me say this before. This is a brave move because a lot of administrations and a lot of councils prior to all of us have not wanted to ask this question. Because once you know the answer, you cannot unknow it. You are now responsible for finding a solution, for figuring it out. And the answer to the question, what is the state of our buildings, came back at a devastating number. Originally, the number was $97 million. And as time has gone on and maintenance, and we try to keep up with the maintenance and repairs, that number has continued to grow from 2022 until now. And it now stands at $107 million. Now, there are a whole host of reasons why this proverbial can has been kicked down the road. We struggled with the recession. We've worked really hard to make sure that our public safety teams are well compensated for the work that we do. We make sure that our city services are maintained at top notch. We have not invested in our infrastructure. We simply haven't had the funds to do it. Which brings us to our third challenge, the creation of an active and engaging and a vibrant city center. Now, this idea surfaced way back in 1967, and then again, it shows up as we get into the work of Livonia Vision 21, where that committee learned time after time when talking to thousands of residents, what residents really wanted was some kind of a central gathering area, something that was vibrant and active and engaging and energized. And this reaches the top of everybody's list. And it continues to reach the top of people's list of wants. We survey every year in our annual city satisfaction survey, 70% of Livonia voters in an open-ended question referenced something that indicated that they wanted a city center, that they want a place to gather with their families and their kids. So let's go. Let's see where this adventure begins, okay? Because this is how we're going to solve this problem. We're going to fly over the top of Bates Restaurant, and we're going to keep corner across the street. I wish I had a laser pointer with me right now. And you're going to be able to look down at the city campus there. The city campus, you can see City Hall, you can see everything all the way from the rec center, all the way down Linden Road, almost to Ford Field there. Phase 1 calls for relocating the senior center. That part of the project is well on its way. We're actually halfway through this giant project, as a matter of fact. The senior center, a 30,000 square foot building, is set to be completed and opened later this summer. Once it is complete, we will have 9 acres of property available for redevelopment. And that is coming at no cost to taxpayers. Most of the money is coming from the feds, the state, and the county through grants. Phase 2, in late December, the city council, last year, late December, the city council approved the sale of up to $45 million in bonds to rebuild the city halls. So the current building, built in 1969, is a 90,000 square foot building, which is amazingly energy inefficient, laden with structural problems, and it really just doesn't work for the workforce that we have today. After a detailed site space needs analysis was conducted, a new structure was proposed to be rebuilt, and that structure was stamped at 55,000 square feet, almost half the size of the current building. It's going to have a better layout, designed to improve workflow and provide more energy efficiency and easier to maintain the structure as a whole. The building is set to be completed in mid-2028, and with that, we will have cleared out 20 acres of property for redevelopment to build that city center that people have been talking about since 1967. But the city hall has to move east of the property in order to make this happen, and that's where we brought in our design team of HED. So phase 3 of the program, and this is really what we're going to be talking about tonight. This is taking a look at how we could possibly clear out 27 acres of property. 27 acres of property that are designed to bring young families and young professionals into our community by bringing more multifamily residential housing, that's townhouses and condos and apartments, alongside of a really robust downtown-like area with restaurants and bars and retail and a place for people to gather, places where we can gather for concerts and art fairs and all of those things that we have been missing over time. So phase 3, the focus for our discussion tonight, during this phase, the project is proposed that we rebuild the police department, located closer to the courthouse. That makes it have improved efficiency. It's also going to get our police officers out of a building that no longer serves them and help us to attract some of that talent that we're all really struggling to get. And it also includes adding on a covered garage for our police vehicles, making it safer for police officers to park their vehicles. It also includes renovating the main fire station so that it can accommodate larger equipment being used and provide a safer work environment. You may have heard the story this past week on Channel 7, where they talked about where the deficiencies were in our police department, or in our fire department right now, where people are coming in and right off in the truck and they're having to hose down in their beer and right next to the place where they eat and they sleep. And all of those carcinogens are way too close to the air that they breathe. So while we're at it, we're gonna renovate the 4 ancillary stations as well. Both the police and the fire stations, when they were first built, didn't consider the fact that we would have female firefighters and female police officers. So you can only imagine the accommodations that the female public safety representatives are working in. So this will upgrade and make sure that we're attending to all of those needs. We're also proposing a new library in this plan, and we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about why that proposal is so important for this property. But in general, it's important to know that it's a smaller footprint for the library. It is smaller space that is used more efficiently. It's going to be customized to meet the needs that today's library users have. So, on this close to 27 acres of property, what are we going to do? We're proposing to build a greenway through the center of it, and this is going to be a connective passageway for bikers, for walkers, for cars. It's going to move traffic through the city center area. It's going to be a great parade route one day, fantastic place for art fairs and music festivals, and a whole host of other creative uses that we've envisioned along this greenway. Next, to make sure we get all these details in, we're going to be adding that central gathering area that we've heard people talk about for so long. A way to get kids away from their computer screens and into the park, visiting their friends and hanging out and having fun. This is a park that is slated to be about 2 acres. That is larger than the Kellogg Park in Plymouth, just to give you a sense of perspective. And it's going to be used for the home of future concerts, a splash pad, fountain, a playground. All of these are features that can be accommodated in this park. All of these amenities, and we're going to get a chance to work with the community in determining what they want to see in that giant play space that we have available. In addition to the central plaza, there are plans to use that stormwater management system that we're going to be building to our advantage, making it an amenity for our residents, turning it into that pond area. We don't have many water features in the city of Livonia. This is going to give us a chance for that passive recreation area that we've talked about for so long, with boardwalks and trails and a nature observation area, and something that we can integrate with the library, which are also going to be pointed to shortly. Again, this is going to be a chance for us to work with community members on what they'd like to see in that passive park space. As we discussed, we're proposing a new state-of-the-art, community-friendly police department. You'll see it up there, tucked next to the courthouse, complete with safe and covered parking for police vehicles. All police courthouse to do their business. That's toward the top of the diagram there. Now, mind you, and I know, Counselor, you've been working with us for a long time on this project. You see these boxes move around, and you know this is finalized. This is all, it's firming up, but it's not locked in stone yet. I'll continue to evaluate. Major renovations are planned for the fire station, which you see in the lower left portion of the diagram. And this is also, you can see where the library can take advantage of that wooded space towards the back. Now, this is by no means a comprehensive list of amenities that we're talking about funding tonight, but it is a way to invest in our cities tomorrow. We're a 75-year-old community, and the last time we made an investment like this, very similar to this, was in 1999. In 1999, the city asked the council to support a bond proposal, very similar to what we're asking you to do tonight. And for many of the reasons that we want to build a downtown tomorrow, leaders were looking to build the recreation center in 1999. We needed an amenity that would attract young families to our city, and this was the first step. But the fact is that young families, while they may be coming to the rec center from other communities, are not finding a place to live in Livonia. You're not finding enough halls. Young people, young professionals are not finding an opportunity to live here. So we need to create more of that space, and that's where Phase 4 comes into play. Now, we are not looking for funding for Phase 4. This is the final phase of the project, and the costs to develop that portion of the property are going to be borne by public-private partnerships, arrangements that we're going to work at because we're going to be the landowners. And we're going to be working to inspire developers to bring townhouses, condos, and apartment opportunities to the city center, along with restaurants and retail and bars and fun places to hang out. So I can't imagine the city of Livonia without the Kirksey Recreation Center and the 800,000 visitors that it gets every year. But I do want to start beginning to imagine what tomorrow's next big investment will look like in our community. In order to do that, of course, there's a cost, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So I am going to turn the podium over to Debbie Lichtenberg. I do want to provide you, Debbie's our finance director here in the state, in the city of Livonia. So one of the key reasons that we brought Debbie on board was because of her background. Prior to coming to the city of Livonia, Debbie was the finance director from the city of Royal Oak. Royal Oak undertook a very similar project that the city of Livonia is engaged in right now. So I don't know that there's anybody better to lead you through the numbers and walk you through the bus project. Debbie?
Good.
Thank you, Mayor. So, I'm glad to ask you. So we've spent a lot of time in the last few meetings talking about the vision, what this might look like, what it might exclude. And as those plans have started to gel, as the mayor said, we're not finished yet, but we're getting close enough that we have been able to put some dollars on what this might look like, how we can finance it, and how we can move it forward in a way that we feel it is going to be affordable and an investment that really brings value. So what we're going to walk through just very briefly, as the mayor said, we started in Livonia Vision 21 with Project Catalyst. We're going to walk through where the money has come from for Project Catalyst, the Senior Wellness Center, for a new city hall, and then we'll talk about phase 3, what would potentially be in a ballot proposal. So we've talked about this in terms of 3 phases. And I'm going to go right into the details here. So phase 1 is the Senior Wellness Center. As the mayor said, we received over $20 million in grant funds to help bring this project to fruition. In addition to that, we have been saving for this project, knowing that this had to be done. And we were able to put an additional little over $6 million towards this project. We have this fully funded, and it is well underway. Moving into phase 2, which is a new city hall. We have been able to identify up to $2.4 million in our existing funds that we can use to secure funding to create a new city hall. So we have gone to our financial partners and asked them to build out a bond scenario for us of what we could potentially buy with that $2.4 million of debt service each year. And what we have discovered is that based on a very conservative look at what the bond markets are at, where they may be in the future, and where the city's taxable values are projected, we expect to be able to very comfortably borrow close to $37 million. We have additional funds available within the Building Improvement Fund. Again, we've been saving, knowing that this was coming. And the current price that we have for the City Hall is $40 million. So that funding is also identified, and we have those sources secured. Now we enter into phase 3, and this is where we will be seeking support from the public, from our residents. So as the mayor said, we are looking at a new library a new police station, renovating and expanding Fire Station 1, and doing renovations to the remaining fire stations. Building that city center plaza, that green space, that activated park area where we see that as a community gathering space. And all of the infrastructure and parking needed to support those activities. Total investment needed $150 million. Now, I don't want to get into splitting hairs as far as, if the police station should be a little bit higher or a little lower. This is the overall cost that includes all of the civil, all of the work underground and above ground that will need to take place. So when we put all of those pieces together, Livonia Vision 21, starting with the senior center and all the way through the phase 3, would be a total investment in the Livonia community of $217 million. So again, I want to just put this up just as a visual of what we are and are not talking about when we start talking about this future fund proposal. Phase 1, the senior center, check that one off. We have those funds. Phase 2, City Hall, check that one off too. We've got the bond, debt service lined up for that. So what we're really going to spend time talking about is phase 3. And as I just mentioned, that's constructing a new police station, new library, the public plaza, the Greenway connector, parking and infrastructure, renovating fire departments and expanding Station 1. That is what we are looking for in the next ballot proposal. We are not including any of the future development that will come after that. It does not include the retail or restaurant space or any residential. That comes later, and that is not for the ballot proposal. So, for those of you who like a visual image of things, the pie chart, the larger pie chart on the left, again, is all 3 of those phases. And that smaller pie chart on the right breaks out just the city center fund proposal portion. If we look at it again with just the phase 3, you can really break it down into 2 parts. The public safety part, which is about 55% of the total, and the other part that really is the health and welfare, well-being part of this. Those are the amenities that the public will be enjoying. A new library that's state-of-the-art, the public plaza, and all of the infrastructure, which includes that greenway, the paths, the nature trails that we were talking about. So it can be really easy to look at those budget buckets, we'll call them, and say, okay, if we take those costs and divide them by the square footage of the building, that's going to give us our square footage. Well, I caution you against that because it takes a lot more, especially in a project of this size, to build the below ground and above ground infrastructure, to build the roadways, to do all of the other things. So I list these items out to give you the idea of what is in the total budget. So within the library budget, that's for a new library and demolition of the existing building. The police station budget bucket includes not only a new police headquarters building, but also, as the mayor mentioned, secured parking deck for the patrol vehicles. It also includes moving the cell tower and the fuel station that currently exists at the police station. I've touched on the fire stations quite heavily. We're actually looking at expansion of Fire Station 1 to add a bay that would accommodate the larger fire apparatuses that are available today at Livonia. And it also includes technology upgrades to make sure that we have the latest technology available to support our public safety officers. Within the City Center Plaza, it's not just planting stone. It's creating the plaza, it's the pathways, the lighting, having public Wi-Fi in that space. It includes the amenities around that pond area, the greenway, the bike loop. It's all in there. The other infrastructure and parking, obviously there will be other parking in the space. So it will include some surface parking areas that aren't attached to specific buildings. It also would include demolishing City Hall, the existing City Hall, the stormwater detention that is needed, and all of the other streets, landscaping, and things that are not otherwise lumped in with some of those buildings. So again, that gets us to that total investment of $150 million. So the next question is, what does that look like? What does $150 million worth of bonds mean? So first, I just want to make sure that everyone understands what we talk about when we talk about bonds. Bonds are a way of financing projects that you want to do, and it's very much like having a mortgage on a house. We borrow money, and you pay it back over time with interest. The annual debt service, and you'll hear me use that term, that's the amount that has to be paid back every year. It's both principal and interest. Again, think of it in terms of your own mortgage. That's how this operates. That annual payment is going to depend on how much gets borrowed, what the interest rate is at the time you borrow it, and how long you're paying it back. So when we get to the point of explaining and putting out a ballot proposal, I know this may be a little bit hard to read, but I will point out the yellow area is the total amount of principal to be borrowed. The red is the maximum length of time that the bonds can be borrowed over. The blue area will be what the bond proceeds can be used for. The purple is when we would start collecting that millage. And the green is the estimate of what that millage rate would look like. So we'll talk about a little bit more after we look at numbers, but I wanted to show you that those are the 5 key things that a ballot proposal must have. So now getting into the really important thing. What would $150 million cost? How would we generate those funds? So again, we enlisted the help of our bond counsel from Miller Canfield, as well as our financial advisors from PFM. And we have talked through various bond scenarios. And where we have settled in at the most advantageous duration would be 25 years, estimating an interest rate of 4.75%. And for that $150 million principal, the total debt service payments would be $8.3 million, or about 1.49 mils. That's if we borrow the whole $150 million all at once. We went back to them and we said, is there any other way that we can structure this that brings that down even more? And then we looked at
what happens if we issue that $150 million a little bit differently? They split it up into two series. So our consultants from PMR looked at what the potential cash flow needs for the project would be. And they were comfortable with us being able to borrow $150 million to get started through the first 2 years of the project, and then borrow the remaining $50 million. By doing this, by breaking that up, delaying that additional portion of the principal, it actually will save us about $8 million of interest and bring that millage rate down to 1.43 mils. And that is the terms that we are recommending at this point.
Just to be clear, the first series would be borrowing $100 million, is right? Correct. And the series would be borrowing the balance to the nine.
Correct. So in total, it would be $150 million. So those remaining numbers, and it's really the next step is what does that mean to each and every resident? So using that 1.43 mils number, we looked at what the average taxable value is currently for Livonia properties that are residential properties and that are improved. So that means properties with a house on it. So based on that average taxable value, which is $107,055, the annual property tax would be $153.09. Or if you pay for, you've got a mortgage and you are paying a monthly escrow, it would be $12.76 a month. So that's based on the average. What does the average mean? In Livonia, it means more than 50% of these improved residential properties have a taxable value below that. They have a taxable value of $100,000 or less. 85% of those residential properties have a taxable value of $150,000 or less. So if you're not in that average bucket, this slide looks at some different cutoffs and looks within those different categories of taxable values to show how it changes based on your taxable value. Now, to me, a more meaningful slide is this one, which shows that 50% of the residents that have a taxable value of $100,000 or less will pay less than $12 a month for this $150 million investment. And 85% of the residents, all of those properties who have $150,000 in taxable value or less, would pay $17.87 a month. So less than $18.
I'm sorry, I'm just like, can you repeat that again so I can take?
Yes. So 50% of the residents have taxable values of $100,000 or less.
No.
That means that they would be paying $11.92 or less. And 85% of the residents have a taxable value of $150,000 or less, and would be paying $17.87 or less.
They just wins to me.
So it's not just residents that pay property taxes. it does impact business owners as well. So just like we did with the residential side, we looked at how commercial and industrial parcels are rated. And you can see it's a very similar curve. Businesses tend to have higher taxable values overall. And with the commercial and industrial, 55% of the parcels have a taxable value of $350,000 or less. And 85% of them have taxable values of $1 million or less. Obviously, when you look at the largest businesses, which are at the far right on this next slide, those numbers go up. But when we look at the parcel count, that column all the way to the right that has the $563.56 for a monthly tax amount is only 108 parcels within the city. So that 108 parcels would provide 10% of the total tax revenue that would be collected from this nest. But when you look at the small businesses, and we look at the fact that 55% have a taxable value of $350,000 or less, those smaller businesses are going to pay less than $42. And 85% of the businesses would be paying $120 a month for taxes. So with that in mind, we go back to what the proposed ballot language could look like. And I showed you the boilerplate earlier with the blanks. This gives language that fills in some of those blanks, that addresses the components that we've talked about as being part of the Phase 3 project. This specifies that we borrow a principal sum not to exceed $150 million. They would be issued as general obligation unlimited tax bonds, so tax-exempt funds, in one or more series, payable not to exceed 25 years from the date of issuance. The section in purple then goes on to describe in a little bit of legalese, but it describes Phase 3's project, that these bonds would be issued for the purpose of paying all or part of the cost of acquiring land and buildings for use by the city and acquiring, constructing, renovating, furnishing, and equipping various capital improvement projects and municipal facilities in the city, including the necessary rights of way, site improvements, advertisement, appurtenances, attachments, and ancillary facilities, therefore, including but not limited to 1. Acquiring, constructing, furnishing, and equipping a new police station with adjacent parking structure and a new library. 2. Renovating, expanding, improving, furnishing, and equipping fire station numbers 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 3. Acquiring, constructing, equipping, and providing recreational facilities within a public green space. 4. Demolishing existing buildings located on public use spaces, including but not limited to the existing police station, the existing library, and the existing city hall. And 5. Improving the city-owned property at 5 Mile Road in Farmington Civic Center campus site, together with all related site improvements. And if approved, the estimated millage to be levied in December 2025 is 1.43 mils, which is $1.43 per thousand of taxable value. And the estimated simple average millage rate required to retire the bonds is 1.43 mils. So I read that all to you, not to hear myself talk, but to emphasize that this language is designed to be specific to the project, specific to the intent of what we want to do with that money, but to allow for the plan to reveal itself. And if we decide, for example, that we're going to put a band show on it, we don't have that specifically listed, but we do indicate that we have the rates in G-Cal. Like, as part of the ancillary facilities. So this language has been prepared by our bond counsel, and given the current scope and the bond information that I previously provided, this is the language that mirrors what we have been. So the mayor did mention that we also wanted to talk about the library in particular. And we're going to just take a look at the difference between repairing, renovating, or building here.
So just real quick, I want to kind of step back and talk about the big picture decision of why new? Why not renovate? Why not just do the fixes? Because there are three ways of looking at this. So we could take a look at total new build, repairing, we've got an estimate of what that's going to cost, or renovating it, just gutting it and, completely renovating it, stem to stern. Well, we've been studying this for the past 6 months now. Debbie's going to dive in a minute on what those numbers look like. But I think what's really important for us at this point is to understand that the picture here is bigger than simple math. It's important to note that while we could renovate, while we could just go in and repair, what we are recommending is building builds. Because we believe that over the long haul, it is going to be a more efficient building. It is going to save money as a result of its not only energy efficiencies, but the productivity that's going to be created in that space. We've done, again, the space needs analysis on the library, just like we did on City Hall. And a library currently that stands at 72,000 square feet needs approximately 50,000 square feet in order to function at peak capacity and offer the very best, most current services to our residents. But here's the big wow. Here's the piece that we don't want to ignore. That when we showed you that design of what the city campus would look like in the future, it calls for something to energize that giant park space that we're creating, that green space that we're creating. So what we're proposing is that we combine the City Hall with the library, and we use that combined space as that energizer for the dark area. And we think this, once again, is super reflective of the core of the very what matters most. It is smart design. It says that if we combine these two buildings, there are probably going to be some economies around. There's probably going to be some combined space that we can use for meetings, even within the building. That when City Hall isn't using it, the library can use it. If we need a space like this in order to bring people together around, whether it's at council meetings or plays and reductions, that maybe we can create this fiercely flexible space that's going to allow us to do that. And at the same time, a library that's activated from 9 in the morning till 9 at night is a lot more active than a City Hall that's open from 8:30 until 4:30. It's energizing, it's got activities going, it can help with the programming of that park space. Now, there are other communities that have come close to doing this. When you look at Plymouth, their library is kind of close to their downtown, but don't really use it as an activating force. Northville doesn't do it at all. Birmingham is a good example. The Baldwin Library, located close to the park in the center of town, but you really don't see a lot of that joint activation. What we're proposing here is something that is very intentional about its design. And again, that is just totally a Livonia thing, to be intentional, to have that kind of foresight. And what this foresight is going to allow us to do is that it's going to allow us to create this gem, this reason for people to want to come. The restaurants, the retail, the residential, all of that's going to make people want to come. But what's really going to clinch the deal for us is that we're able to make sure that that wetland space gets activated, that the water feature gets activated, and the park gets activated on the other side by a lot of the activities that are happening in the library. And it'll be a beautiful structure. We all had a chance as a city leadership team recently, and here's what compelled us to move down this path. I'll be honest with you. We went to the city of Redford, and we had one of our leadership team meetings there. And we walked away in awe. If you haven't been to the Redford Library, you owe it to yourself to go, because you'll come out shaking your head saying, and why doesn't Livonia have that? We are missing so much opportunity. And this is a chance to regain that opportunity, because we have the space to do it. We have the reason to do it. And we can do it in a super responsible and affordable way. So I'm going to let Debbie walk you through how we get to that point, okay?
So, as the mayor was saying, services evolve, but libraries are more the heart of the community than ever. So, when you look at the library as it currently stands, something needs to be done. There are some major issues with the building, and currently, as I kind of said, hopefully clearly, as we went through phase 3 costs, we currently have in the budget $37.5 million for the construction of a new library, which, based on those millage rates that I was talking about, it equates to about $38.27 a year on $3.19 for, again, that average taxpayer with a taxable value of about $107,000. But if we chose not to do that, like you chose not to build a brand new building, what would it cost? And our partners at PMR have gone through the facilities assessment and have estimated that if we just perform the repairs and maintenance that would get the library to fully operational condition, it would be about $16.5 billion. To fully renovate the Bennett Library, to completely got it rearrange space needs, and bring it to a library that is current and would be able to grow for the future. That estimated investment would be about $31.5 million. So at that lower end, with the major repairs and maintenance, the annual cost would be $16.84, or the monthly, $1.40. To fully renovate, to make those major structural changes and improvements, $32.15 a year, or $2.68 a month. And so when we look at those costs compared to the cost of a new library, that's why we have included the proposal to construct new libraries in the way we can hear mentioned. Not only would a new building be smaller, more energy efficient, and those factors are not reflected in those numbers. These are strictly those repair and renovating costs. So shifting gears for just a moment, I want to show you where we compare, where we look at our city millage rates compared to our neighbors across Wake County. So this is going to be a little difficult to see unless you're close to the screen. But what I can tell you is the red bar all the way to the left is where Livonia currently is. The current millage rate is 13.1638 mils. The second lowest is Plymouth at 14.0799. So we're currently a little less than 1 mil below Plymouth. The green bar is where Livonia would be if the 1.43 mils for phase 3 was added. It would take us to 14.5938 mils. So we would not be in the lowest spot, but we would be amongst the lowest by a long shot. Northville would remain third with 15.2138 mils. Now, these reflect the city rates only, and I'm going to put one more slide up, and I'm not going to speak to it a lot, other than we do pay attention, and we know that when you get your tax bill, it doesn't just have city taxes on. It also has taxes for schools and counties and other taxing units. And even with all of the other taxing authorities added in, Livonia is still, as a total, the lowest millage rate in Wayne County. So we looked at one more comparison, and we don't often look at it sliced this way, but we did want to look at what other communities across Michigan, so not being contained within Wayne County. Based on population, these are the 10 largest cities in Michigan, excluding Detroit. And we just exclude Detroit because it skews things considerably. They're kind of on an island by themselves. So in this graph, that purple bar, third from the left, is where Livonia is. So among the 10 largest cities in Michigan, Livonia has the 7th highest population, but the 3rd lowest city millage rate. But the two lighter blue bars, I changed the colors on those because I want to point out they also have city income taxes that generate additional revenue that we would not have. So even with that factored in, Livonia is consistently one of the lowest tax rates across the state. And next, the why gap. What if we can all step up to the challenges and make Livonia a city our children want to come home to? And may I turn back over to you.
No point. So this is where we want to talk about that triple win. This is a unique opportunity, and it's one, quite honestly, that folks have been waiting for, as we said before, since 1967. We've been talking about it in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms, and most recently through Livonia Vision 21. So we went back and we just looked, from a really big, magnified perspective here, if what's important to residents is reducing operating costs, what's important to employees, the people that they're responsible for every single day, is to improve their productivity and allow them to deliver things more efficiently, services more efficiently. And what's important to the community and its future as a whole is to realize the goals of Livonia Vision 21. That's our mandate. We were all elected to make sure that we move that program through. How do we create the taxable value in our community that's going to keep us strong, keep us stable? And how do we do that? Livonia Vision 21 lays out the plan for that. We have to ask ourselves, do these three challenges, are they met by each one of these three new buildings or renovated buildings that we're proposing as part of this plan? So when we looked at City Hall and whether or not we ought to go ahead and invest the money and borrow the money to build into City Hall, yes, it is going to help us to reduce our operating costs. Scaling back from a 90,000 square foot building to a 55,000 square foot building clearly is going to reduce the cost of maintenance on this building. Clearly, it's going to improve productivity. Businesses don't operate in silos. We work really hard to make sure they don't operate in silos, and yet we live in one every single day here in the city. We're much better served on a landfill platform. So yes, there will be efficiencies within the City Hall. Is it going to create more taxable value for the city of Livonia when we clear out this property and make it available for redevelopment? Absolutely, yes, it is. So the city council was able to check all three of those boxes along with the administration, and it became a really wise move to borrow the money in order to rebuild City Hall. So we go again and we ask ourselves that same question of, is it wise to do that with our police headquarters? Well, one would contend that that's an amazingly inefficient building. We've heard all sorts of reports about how it was never designed to be a police station. It operates with 4 different boiler systems, heating and cooling systems. It's 2 buildings that have been cobbled together. Amazingly inefficient from a maintenance perspective as well as an energy perspective. So yeah, that makes sense. Isn't it a good productivity and help us to deliver better services? Moving closer to a courthouse, which is where a lot of your interaction at, is clearly going to help to improve the way that we deliver service. You know what it's also going to do? It's also going to help us to attract talent. And that's really important in the hyper-competitive world of public safety. And then third, is that going to, taking that building down and moving that, is that going to help us as a city to increase the taxable value of this corner of 5 Mile in Farmington? Absolutely it will. We can redevelop that piece of property as well. So we ask ourselves that same question of the library, where we're talking about rebuilding a library. And we look at that building too, and we say clearly, a building that's currently 72,000 square feet, its footprint can be reduced to 50,000 square feet, built with more modern technology and energy efficiencies. Clearly that has to drive down cost, not just for energy, but for the maintenance of that structure. Is it going to improve productivity and the way we deliver service? Perhaps the key to this building is that it really delivers service better, because it can be constructed to meet the modern day needs of library users. And then finally, asking ourselves, will it help us in the end to increase the taxable value if we move the library from one location to the other? And I would contend the ability to redevelop the space that the library sits on clearly makes that a yes. But then the fact that it gets moved to the center of the campus and really helps to energize it, that's the bonus. That's the bonus. All three of these come together when they intersect that way. In the business world, that's called a triple win. And that's where you find your greatest success. So the recommendations tonight clearly step up to that challenge. Debbie, can you get the next slide for me? Other communities are getting this. So I'm going to go back. I want to go back to the very beginning when we talked about how we were being outpaced in 2017 by our peer communities. Well, our peer communities have figured this out, and in the past 2 years are making major investments in the exact same areas that we're talking about making investments in. And for some of them, this is their second iteration of reinvestment in their community. For us, it's our first. You're looking at a new fire station in Camp, a new fire and police station in Novi. Council President McCullough could tell you about the essential services complex being built in Northville. Next slide. The fire station in Plymouth Township, a beautiful new park, and a fire and an amphitheater in Westland. We are getting outpaced, folks, and if we continue to let this happen to our community, we will stagnate. Now, we know that this is a critical time in our country. It's a tough time to be asking people to invest in anything. So we want to make it easy. Can you hit the next slide? Now, you can put your phone up and check to see if that QR code is active, but it is not. The reason that it is not is that we have not settled on an amount yet for this bond proposal. As soon as we do settle on one, though, people will be able to check clearly the tax calculator to figure out what the impact is for them. And we think that's really, really important for folks. There's also the LivoniaBuilt.org site where people can check constantly on all of the new development going on in our community. And I want to go back to where we started because the stories here are so similar. The last time that we invested like this in our community was in 1999. The millage rate was 0.8 mils, and it passed by 53 to 47%. The compelling need was a little bit different at the time. In 1999, we were aiming to lead the nation in the development of a recreation center that was state-of-the-art, and we did. People came from all over the country to see what Livonia had. We're lagging behind our peer communities. The playing game catch-up folks. And it's hurting our ability to take care of our most precious resources. Our police officers, our firefighters, and our kids. So, when the bond proposal campaign began back in 1999, just to kind of set the stage, more than 50% of the community opposed it. And how do I know? Because if you look really, really close at that picture, there's a really short woman in a skirt with a hard hat. And I spent my summer of talking to people and educating people on why this was going to be really important for our community. Why this was going to be one of those transformative moments. This was going to be key to our ability to continue to move forward. I'm going to be spending my summer, hopefully alongside all of you, working really hard so that we create another transformative moment for our community. Because I can't imagine not having that recreation center with 800,000 visitors coming through it every single year in our city. I also can't imagine not having this opportunity for a downtown as we've all envisioned it. We spend so much time envisioning it, literally, for less than it's going to cost for you for a Netflix premium membership. That's where we're at. That's what we're talking about. So I think we got to keep this in perspective. This may be a bit of a heavy lift for all of us, but it is a big vision. It is a big dream, and it really is designed to make sure that this is the city that our kids want to come home to. So we thank you for your time tonight. We stand ready to entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Administration. Council, let's jump in and start asking questions. Thanks.
You know, first, if you don't
Knock
mind.
yourselves up.
So not sure question. Finance director to me. So we put up the ballot proposal. I believe it said that if we approve this to go on the ballot in August, that this will hit our tax bills in December. Is that correct? Yeah, that is correct. So the proposal was actually all not in favor of that, and to refer to the number one. But it's sense. That's okay. So what are we going to have available to our residents? Right. What is being available to our residents so that they can look to that stuff? Is it they're going to use something for our website so they can look up themselves? Right. Their property would be based on if they haven't.
Yes. So obviously it's to upload in a setting like this to help each person what their impact But as the mayor said, with that, the QR codes, which will be spread far and wide, once council has approved what that ballot language will be, you'll be able to go to the LivoniaTV's website using that QR code or a variety of other links, and you'll be able to just put in what your taxable value is. You can answer a couple of other very simple questions that impact your tax situation. It'll ask, are you over 65? Are you disabled? Because those things impact whether you potentially can get another credit on your income tax. So it's not only looking at what the millage rate is going to cost you, but it's going to tell you if you're going to benefit further from it from some of the state income tax. That'll be linked. It'll be very easy and simple to use, and it will tell each individual person what their rate is.
Okay, so we'll be able to get that right to that from our website. We don't have to listen to us.
No, we will have the links so you can use the direct link. You can just type it in.
Okay.
You can go to the city's website. You'll be able to use, we'll have QR codes posted all over the place. So if you want to scan it that way, you can. But we want to make it as accessible as we can because it is a big deal. People need to know what it's going to cost and how that will affect them and how it will affect them.
It's a lesson.
And so for them to, if they have their eyebrow. Yeah. So I'm sorry. So as long as they have their assessment cards put it down, when they put this up at their own time, everybody go to use that library and get their own billion. Yes. And we will have it up there so people can walk right through it step by step. We'll also have information about who they can call. If they're having questions about it, if they're not sure which number, because there's a lot of numbers on that assessment notice, we'll be able to walk them through exactly what number to use, how to put it into that calculator, and if they're having trouble with it, we'll pop it in for them to tell them what it spits out. I have one more question. As well as one. I'll do a couple and then just pass it on. So, and then so what we're proposing tonight is the white clay source. Correct. So the towel has to side up and control that. So the council votes that the 1.43 goes out fail, unless so people vote actually. That stays, the 1.43 stays the same for the 20. So what people will be voting on is whether or not we should borrow $150 million. Okay. The 1.43 is what we're estimating that millage rate to be. So if taxable values as for the city as a whole grows by more than what we've projected, that millage rate will be less. So there's many opportunities along the way for that millage rate to become something less. One of the things about that 25-year length of bond is it allows us, after 10 years, to look at the market and see if it's favorable to refinance. And believe me, if it's favorable, we're going to do that. And that will lower it. What we're showing today is what we consider to be conservative numbers, based on conservative estimates. And because I'd rather have you get your tax bill and have it be a little less than that has the on. So that's what we've built into those numbers. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chip. Second. I'm going to keep that just real quick. This kind of sends up something from me, Debbie. Had we considered any longer or shorter durations on our bonds? I know we helped ESCOM that went out this back in actually, it's a dozen years ago. It's a 30-year bond. How or why did we settle on 25 years? So you're absolutely right. We looked, in the beginning, we looked at 15 years, 20 years, 25, and 30. Right away, we knew 15 was a very, very aggressive number, because just like your home mortgage, if you were to borrow it over 15 years, the monthly payments get to be a little shocking, and we didn't want to do that.
Yes.
We looked at 20 years, and that still was a millage rate that we weren't comfortable with. But when we looked in the 25 and 30-year comparison,
Yes.
the amount of additional interest that you would pay over that extra 5 years to do a 30-year bond as opposed to 25, the millage savings were negligible.
Yeah.
It would have brought it down at about, I think, from 1.43 to 1.41, but it would have been an additional 5 years. Did make sense. The sweet spot is really that 25 years, and it keeps the interest amount that we're going to be paying at a manageable level. It keeps the millage rate at what we feel is reasonable for an investment like this. And, and as I said in the presentation, we didn't just stop at the durations. It's how can we split this up? How can we make it as friendly for the community as it can be? So yes, we spent a lot of time, and our financial advisors have run lots of scenarios for me.
I appreciate that. We take me in this chair. And we pretty sure this again mountains. So now it works. Scan them body stays and when you see yours, then my presentation seems to be spot. I know a lot of the areas are going to be still block diagrams. I know timing is everything at this point, but when would we think we would be honing in on numbers, square footages, and fine-tuning the numbers that are being proposed over there, and just timing-wise?
So, it's August. Is Paul here? Oh, she's hiding. Yeah, because I'm going to defer to Paul because
Introduce yourself, Paul.
Yeah, I'm Paul Terrio with Livonia Real Point, helping project for less of figures now.
And PMR is real estate advisor.
Yeah, sorry, Catherine, Red Point, your program manager, design and city center projects, and do a lot of big capital projects all over the state. So you've got myself on Troy Ford, Bedrock, local development, K-12 municipalities, etc.
You guys also do this sort of work for Livonia Public Schools as well?
We do. We do work for, I think, 40 of the 50 largest school districts in the state. So, including National City, I work in knowledge who were in the state. Yeah, that's a great question. As you know, we brought to council earlier recommendations to Player HUD and Player Rewald, the City Hall project, and also Player Business Black. On the police station, those designs are moving along. Police stations probably a little bit further ahead at the moment than the City Hall Library would be, but I'm really hoping to get moving here quickly once Angela votes on this attention, like proposal, and really get drawings done before the end of the year. They need to get it out on the street, it bins back in by the end of this calendar year for each goal, or if not, like in the year end or so. And so there's a lot of work to do to get there, but it's important to time the market, which I think is probably your underlying question there, right? You want to make sure with all the turmoil going on with tariffs, the supply chain issues that are not going to be going to come, we want to make sure that we're getting out to bid as soon as we can. Because as you know, prices tend to go all over the time, and 5-6% the last few years. Sooner we can get out to the bid market, get contracting lined up, get the shut down done. That's the boss.
And I guess just to follow up, if I may, more schematic design is going to take time for sure. But I guess more of a high level, look at things, go to the motors, kind of like that. I think this is going to be on the proposed August ballot. Just giving as best information as we can
for me not those for the voters to be able to make their decisions. That's yeah, no, I think we've done a lot of work, as you know, in the city of VHS to do preliminary space programming work. Those space programs have been vetted by H&E and by Out2 Black. We're very close with the end of the week put together, but as those space programs continue to evolve, all reach department heads and buildings. Yeah. I think we'll probably be into design development by August, or at least at the end of schematic design, where we will have some renderings to show and some more detailed to show. So we should have some hard numbers, at least square footage wise and stuff like that, for the voters when it hits ballots. Yeah, but we're very confident that we're going to have it together. As I mentioned, there's obviously a lot of things going on right now with labor materials, but that's one of the reasons that we try to budget conservatively, just like Debbie's right here numbers conservatively. The last thing we're going to do is come to you and tell you there's some cost tax and that lost 2x. So we believe very true. Thank you.
Well, before you go, thanks, Mr. President. Something the President and I dealt with a lot. So people don't know in the audience, President McCullough, in his day job, this isn't our full-time job, works in facility management for our neighbor, Northfield Township. And they built some significant buildings recently. They're building a police department, fire department, DPW building, garage, at a Parks Trailhead, yeah, whatever that is. So, with that being said, he was nice enough to have me go out tour it, and it was pretty impressive. And I look at that project, and they're spending some $43 million. Now, I know in talking to the administration, your position is that does not compare to what we're trying to do here in Livonia. A lot more police officers, and our police chief is here. We have 100+ police officers, a lot of vehicles. We have multiple specialized units, much larger police department. Our fire departments, while we have an existing fire station, it's a large fire station. We do a lot of county-related issues. We provide a lot of mutual support, not only in the city of Livonia, but countywide. So you would say that that is not a good representation, or we're necessarily apples to apples. It's a little bit different, right?
Yeah, from what I've read about the project and driven by, it's like a great project. I'd love people to tour around the right teams. I know there's been a lot of questions around that, and as well, with Novi putting a similar police fire village on the ballot for August as well. I think both those projects are great projects, and they're similar, but they are not apples to apples. Obviously, Livonia is a much bigger city. Worth building, I think, probably pretty close to twice the square footage that Northville did, and significantly more, maybe about 50% more than what Novi is doing. Obviously, there's different ways to design projects into different projects. We're talking about multiple-story buildings. Some of those other buildings have inbuilt functions. So, while I think it's always good to look around and see what the market's been and what other communities are doing, I do think what we're doing is a little bit unique. Everything is.
And Paul, when you bring that up, we have to build bigger, not out of glitz and glamour, but out of necessity. We have to build bigger because we are a bigger community.
You have more police officers, you have more firefighters, in fact, we have more STEM at City Hall. And I think, as the mayor hit out the buildings and talking about building are not twice the size of what you'd have now. They're actually significantly smaller, and those operation and maintenance costs and those efficiencies that people working in those buildings are going to add up a lot more than how developers should be. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings, and each one means going to 34 to 50 years. It's not going to really help the general county in the city.
Because something that is important to me, I'm looking at this from a fiscal conservative standpoint. I want to make sure I don't want to keep putting money into buildings that should not have been built to begin with. We built a 5-story tall city hall with gold glass. It looks like Trump Tower. It's not necessary. We don't need it. Now we're talking about going from 90-some thousand square foot city hall down to a 50,000 square foot city hall. We are going to be more efficient and provide better services, but also saving money in the long run by putting money into a new building as opposed to continuing to line the old aging building that shouldn't have been.
In seeing you all the guys buildings in a different location to that free out that corner for the development, I think that incremental tax, because we're all assuming that's probably not fully appreciated.
Now, when we look at these numbers, Paul, or anyone in the administration, we're talking about a combined city hall and library. City hall is selling at $37 to $40 million, and the library is some $37 million. How can we get that number down now that we're talking about combining those? Because something that, again, the president and I struggle with is this cost, $150 million, significant number. and I'm hoping that we can save there. And I'm going to go to the finance director and ask her what happens with savings if there are savings. But to you, as our owner's representative in the extra real estate, can those numbers come down now that we're talking about combining, right? 50 million or 40 million for a city hall and 37 million for a library. What happens when we combine that bill? Can it be a little bit less?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what the hope is that as we start to look at the space programs for both of those buildings, you realize some of the common spaces, the commonalities there, as Mayor mentioned, conference rooms and collaboration spaces and things, public spaces that are available that aren't currently. We're hoping we can save some square footage. We're hoping we have less exterior walls, scaling, less penalties, things like that, and that we can drive those costs down. Obviously, it's a big goal of ours in our role as your older representative to be as fiscally responsible as we can with the community's dollars, just like we have as for kids that schools. We've helped them save tens of millions of dollars a year, so we hope to do the same thing here and really be good managed and you can check it.
You're also, Paul, to our finance director, what happens if there's savings? Let's just say we go through this process, to these municipal structures, we ask the residents to trust the city with the $150 million bond, that 4H payment, and instead of spending $150, wow, it only costs us $135 million of the old lease buildings. How can we ensure the trust of the residents? What happens to those things?
So, two things. The first is one of the benefits of issuing in two series is that second series is going to come 2 years down the road. It's going to come when we are well into construction, when things have been bid out. If we don't need to issue that whole 50 million in the second series, we have a moment to think about it. But if we do, if we issue the full $150 million, and if we're finding ourselves saving money on one particular aspect, I talked about those budget buckets. We can reassign budget dollars within the project. So the things that are on the ballot proposals, that's what we can use for. But the money has to stay within, it is a capital improvement budget. It needs to stay for capital improvement. It can't be used for salaries. It can't be used just for general operating expenses. It's going to go to improve city facilities.
So what you're saying, we talk about that ballot language, which is set in law, council approves and the residents approve it. Future city councils, a future mayor, future department heads, they can't say, oh, look, we have $10 million from this bond. Let's go fill a hole somewhere else, or let's go pay for new police vehicles, or whatever other general expenses that the city may incur throughout the year. We cannot go use that money for that.
We can't use it for vehicles. Can't use it for salaries.
There's no finance wizard stuff you can do to round numbers.
But if we do, we've done everything we want to do at the 5 Mile and Farmington area. We've done everything that we want to do in the other fire stations. We've built out the bike loop that we want to do, and we still have some money left over. It gives us the flexibility to look at some of the city's other facilities and potentially then, use the funds for that, but nothing else. It has to be invested in the facilities.
Council, I hope we continue to have a conversation on that language to make sure it's very specific, because to the residents, I want the residents to know that we're being transparent, and this isn't just a wish list of items for city staff to start saying, oh, we got $1 million here, let's spend it on this and whatnot. I know right now with the refuse millage, the trash millage, there's a full millage. We don't levy all those millage rates, right? If we levy half of it or 3/4 of it.
Yeah, you're right. We do less than the maximum that we could.
So in theory, if we could like more, we say, hey, we know what we're spending. This amount covers that, then payment, so we don't need to levy any.
Correct.
Okay. do we have any bonds falling off currently? I know Mayor mentioned the 1999 bond, the village residents asked, is there anything falling off that the city will see and say is coming?
We do have some bonds that are on the recreation center that will be paying off this fiscal year. And we also have another set of bonds on that's for housing and recreation also that will be fully paid in 2030. And the district court bonds will be done in 2033.
Okay, and what is your confidence level that the city will be able to afford this investment in 25 years down the road? Because I'm not going to be on city council forever. You know, some of us may come and go. The mayor's not going to be here forever. You're not going to be here forever. I don't want to saddle future people in this position or future residents. I'm going to be having kids and a family. I don't want to see the city go insolvent because we asked for under $1 million bond. Can we afford this 15, 20 years down the road?
And in my opinion, yes, I would be bringing it to you if I didn't fully believe that. And part of the reason that I say that is, one, in building the bond itself and building that proposal, there's cushion in there. We used an interest rate that's higher than what the market is right now because we know it's going to be a few months before we issue. If the interest rate is lower, the cost is going to be lower. But I wanted to build in some cushion so we knew what we were getting into. Taxable values. I think we've used a very conservative growth in taxable values. We've used 3% this year and next year, and then 2% every year after that. That really cushions us, even if there are years where inflation is extremely low and our taxable values don't go up as much. And it doesn't take into account what may come to the tax rolls once the property here at 5 in Farmington is now taxable as British properties. So that's going to add as well.
So right now, the city's not capturing any taxes from this 20
Correct.
site. So I know you answered before. We still got the questions from not only city employees, but retirees and residents. We shifted over the retiree health care to Medicare Advantage. And that freed up roughly $2.4 million in expenses a year. Are you worried about any changes in Medicare in the future? Can we continue to sustain costs? Those go up? Is that taken into effect here, like your rates?
So healthcare costs in general are something that we watch very carefully because, we've all experienced how those costs have escalated over time. And with the Medicare Advantage, what it really did, almost the magic to it, is it allowed us to give our retirees exactly what we promised them. There was absolutely no reduction in the coverage that they were getting or that they will get into the future. What it did is it built on the Medicare that they've already paid into. And then we were able to buy an insurance policy, a Medicare Advantage plan that brought that base level up to everything that we promised them in a fully insured premium that was much more affordable. What our self-insured plan was doing was starting at $0 and taking it up for as much as the costs may be. So we were basically paying twice for that first tier. So there's cost savings there. It reduces our cost in the long term. But one of the other things that the city has been doing very consistently over the last few years and very aggressively is funding past obligations, really looking at those legacy costs and what do we need to have put aside in our VIVA plan that will pay for those benefits in the future. And that has helped us to get dollars into the system and have them working for us, getting to earnings that are protecting that inflation. So even if there are increases in Medicare Advantage, even if we get to the point where Medicare Advantage no longer makes sense, we have created a structure with our health care that allows us to really have a long-term trajectory. So if something were to happen tomorrow, we've got time to adjust and realign and bid things back out before we have to worry, because we've put that chunk away into the plan. And it's really something that the city should feel very proud about.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lichtenberg. Council questions?
That's the Mr. Chair. I think I'm actually going to go to Mayor on this one. So I'm thinking about this village, and if of course we proceed and allocate these funds to the facilities and the infrastructure, what strategies are we going to have in place to make sure we're going to, ensure their ongoing maintenance and we don't get ourselves in a situation we are right now? We make sure we do a great job managing these facilities going forward.
So, and there's an awesome question. And this one we spent a lot of extra work in labs. It really means that we need to, in your process of helping us, you go through this, realign some of our data. We have finance cost. We have a management of capital assets is involved into finance director, but without a full lot of support built around it. Every year we work together as a city to put together a capital plan. It's managed over in the planning department for they need more attention on using that as a more of a strategic document for how we move forward, making sure that we're taking care of not just the base needs, but the future needs of the city. So putting a capital planning manager in place in the finance department is part of what you're all going to be focusing on in the next public base. Also, putting the CFO in a position on the city, not been tasked at a CFO, somebody who is really looking strategically at where the city is headed, where it's using its assets at, trying to manage a budget from a priority-based budgeting methodology, looking at that capital improvement plan and saying, okay, this is moving forward right now. So that's the second piece. But the third piece, here's the magic. The magic piece comes to play right now. And this is what we learned from our friends across the street. And it was one of the first things I learned when I took office, was that across the street, they're managing their assets, their buildings. To think about how many more buildings out the assets than we have. They do it every single year. There's a report on what rooms of what school needs to be replaced, what boiler system needs to be replaced, what windows need to be replaced, when the desks need to be changed out, when the carpet needs to be changed out. And it is on an asset management plan that they evaluate every single year that staff dedicated to that. So once we have now put these new buildings in place, it is going to give us a chance to get our arms around an asset management planning methodology. It goes beyond it, just the city hall, just the $5 authority. We have to use what we to invest in looking at all of our structures to why our DPW, our gun rate, our parks. All of these are assets committed to that. We've done an exceptional job that when we did an asset management plan for our roads. We were one of the first cities in the state to do that. We did an exceptional job when we looked underground at our water and sewer system. Again, one of the first cities in the state of Michigan to do that. If we get this harnessed and we get this underway and put an asset management plan in place in this city, we will again be one of the first cities to do that in the state of Michigan. This is becoming a common issue for cities and municipalities. We've all wheeled up our building back in the 1950s, and when Michigan really came surging in. And so across the board, you can talk to city leaders about deteriorating buildings, just as we're talking about that. But getting your arms around how to manage those assets comes down to having a really strong asset management plan that we're committed to investing in. We're committed to investing in a capital planning manager and a CFO. That's a real high.
No, I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot. I think it's imperative that we receive status updates on not only the new facilities, but our current facilities as well. And I really think it'll be helpful if we can get this prior in the budget cycle, and so we can plan properly for maintenance. Because I don't want outcomes 25 years from now to be in the same shoes that we're in with all of this.
This by far would be the greatest gift that this council, since we don't pay enough stuff for your lineage bitches, it's not just our ability to revitalize our economy by creating this city center area. It's our ability to get our eyes around the future needs, so the future councils and mayors are not sitting there in the same position we're sitting in.
And the work Americans.
And that actually, that shirt's going to go in there at work to Debbie, but kind of, it's a little bit of a piggyback on what that your outbreak was walking down a little bit ago. But one of the major concerns I hear from residents is what type of measures are we going to implement to ensure that the funds raised through this bond and millage are going to be used as intended. And I know there's a lot with the language, but it's not totally, kind of. So we want to make sure that we don't pass this millage and we say we're going to do all these things and then we run out of money or whatever. So I guess what accountability is embrace of that?
So I'll answer from the finance perspective, and maybe the mayor will answer from the integrity,
And
perspective.
It will alleviate the risk.
But the reality is that once these bonds are issued, we have regulatory requirements. We have to prove that we are using these dollars for what is stated in that bond proposal. That is our governing document. And we are held accountable. We have to report annually. And if we do not file the appropriate disclosures and financial information, we will be barred from any further borrowing. We will not be able to fulfill the requirements of our continuing disclosures, and we will not be able to issue bonds in the future. So that's one thing. There's a lot of accountability that internally, behind the scenes, we go through that is just part of what we do. But furthermore, we have purchasing and procurement policies in place that are guide rails for everything we do. And although we have some unique policies related to this particular plan that allows administration to approve contracts up to a higher number, we still have accountability to report to you anytime that happens. Anytime, and when you're dealing with a project of this size, contracts are big. Most contracts are going to be hitting the council table before we ever start spending a dime on them. And those dollars are going to be segregated in terms of the accounting for that. You're going to know everything that has been spent, everything that hasn't, every bit of interest that we've earned on dollars that are sitting idle. The bonds are a big deal in 5 words, because we do borrow that money and make promises of how it's going to be spent, and we hold that as a very we don't play around with that, right? Ever.
And I was, of course, I was aware of that, but I want the public to understand that we can't do that. I just want to hear correctly from our finance director.
No, there is no,
There's no wiggle.
no, and there's no out of the left pocket and into the right. It's the guardrails are strong and hard on this.
And council will be watched on me.
Sure.
I have a question. I'm not sure if it's going to go to the mayor. They're going to start with the mayor. So throughout the evening, I've noticed some people in the audience taking pictures. Will this PowerPoint presentation be available on our website?
What?
Okay, starting tomorrow. I'm sure we'll have.
Yeah, Councilman Shield, I was going to request that this be added to not only the council packet for this, but it'll be included in the minutes with our council office with Sarah, make sure it's the packet. I don't know when it's going to be on there. We'll talk to Sarah. Sarah's our council manager. She manages all the packets and everything for our city council. We couldn't operate without Sarah. And but this packet, this presentation, I want the exact presentation, please. That it will be included in the on the city council website. So any residents go back to this and screenshot it, share it, do whatever you like. So thanks, Council.
Thank you.
Council done. I'd like to go to the residents. Any more questions from council? Council Vice President Tashnik is going to keep time, 2 minutes. Come up, ask questions, make comments, whatever you like. And I just asked the administration to maybe take some of these questions down if they weren't already asked and answered. If you could keep track of those, maybe we could try to address one of those at some point. So if you could please just state your name and address so we know who you are. And Council Vice President will let you know when your time's up. Thank you.
All right, I'll start over on this side. Okay.
I'm Nicholas Picard, 29891 Robert Drive. So I did a poll yesterday to see, where everyone can be. I got almost 600 votes on it, and 59% put that they would lean no on this millage and not sue. And they want to know what happens if the millage does not next. Do we just let the police and the fire stations just go and just, continue being in the, way that they are? Are we going to create another millage where it's just police and fire? What is the plan if this millage does fit?
So, continue. Can we get a question there for little residents so first, then just kind of answer what you guys want to answer and council can demand. But you have 2 minutes.
That's
Just want to know, what happens. Another thing is, we're talking $150 million. We're talking about saving some money if we put that library to fall together. Some of the Fort that scene have said that Alfred Building only cost $6 million to make it to a community center for some. If he could save that $6 million, why can't we, that be like the first thing that we get? We should really try to give something to all of Livonia, not just about that. A lot of us are passionate about El Canole, a lot of us are passionate about South Livonia. We've all felt that we've been incorporating the county. So I really think that that's something that we should look into. Maybe even adding that on is having some money in there to make Capital into a community center for us in South Livonia.
That's time.
That's that.
Good evening, sir.
Okay. Getting Jim Bigot, 35354 Lancashire. I'm just going to go through my questions. Why isn't the demo for Phase 2 included in the $45 million bond? For some reason, it showed up in Phase 3. Will the bond be excluded in the annual tax increases that happen every year with our millages? It doesn't appear to me that that's going to happen. That's going to be a growing number every year when our millages go up. Of the 108 persons in the highest amount, how many of them have tax abatements that aren't going to be paying into that fee for this park here? Why isn't this going to be on a November ballot when most everybody in the city to be in town to be able to vote? I know we have mail-in ballots, but forget that it's not going to happen. Planning for Phase 4. What really makes people think that they're going to want families going to live in the apartments and townhouses and condos? When you're budgeting to cover for the annual expenses, it's great to hear you're going to have this master plan, but how are you really going to budget for it every year to cover the expenses? Because once you have a plan and you put a number to it, you got to stick to it. You can't say, oh, we're not going to do it. I thought plays and productions were handled at schools, not in the auditorium here at the city or at the library. Lastly, the Redford Library was built for $8.5 million in 2004. That was $130 a square feet. The $50,000 square foot library here is $750 square foot. I don't understand the price growth. Those are my questions. I know you'll get to them someday.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Eileen McDowell, 36099 Brookfield. First, question, and then I appreciate Vice President passionate so asking the question about maintenance going forward, because that's very important, for all of us. But I would like to know, what is the current budget in maintenance what's the current budget for maintenance on our current buildings? How much money is being appropriated every year for those purposes? And to the mayor's point, in reference to how LPS is maintaining their buildings, not only does they have monies for the bond to make all these improvements throughout the last 10 years, 15 years, they also have monies that are allocated through taxes, the sinking fund, which everybody pays twice a year, and that money is appropriated for repairs and other things that the school district pays. So the city doesn't have enough money to take care of what the needs are to keep maintenance here. What are we going to do in order to make that happen? I'm going to need another house millage or a tax for those purposes. And my last question is basically phase 4. If the city potentially is going to go into a private-public partnership for the buildings in that section of property, how is the tax? How are we going to collect taxes on that? If we own the land, how are taxes going to be appropriate or collected on that property? I know we've got, property acts, but that's not in businesses, but it's what those touchdowns work. It's like,
Thank you, ma'am.
hi, Cindy, 9025 ordering. I would like to know what our current library coverage rate is, because we do pay library, and I believe it's 0.75 mils. And we pay that every year with our taxes, and if this new millage is approved, will the current library millage be suspended or reduced in any way?
Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
Hi, I'm Jenny O'Connor. I live at 31601 West Chicago Street. And I just have 2 questions. I'll start with the quickest, easiest one, which is, I just tried to look it up online. Is the city of Livonia GSA eligible, and were these budgetary numbers created with GSA eligibility guidelines taken into consideration? And then my other question is, I'm just trying to understand, what is the rationale behind the order of priority for the projects? I think all of these projects are super important, and I fully on board, and I agree that these things, our city needs these things. But my question is this. There's this $40 to $45 million number being thrown around for new city hall. And then in these budget numbers, it says the fire departments need $16 million. And I understand that there's kind of a domino effect happening over here, like police station needs to be moved, but if the fire station's not being moved and the existing buildings need upgrades and repairs, how come that money is not going to the fire station first before city hall?
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
So Justin Gooch, 9971 had a couple quick questions, not some comments. The first one, I guess a couple comments. First one, is it possible for the City Hall and Library to consider a more futuristic LED like art installation that we would see in on the buildings in order to give like a futuristic look to the icon? This is just like a personal style choice, and just something I think that might be kind of cool. The second one is, do you think a public-private partnership to cover the cost of a quote-unquote activated square would be possible, like an exchange for, selling perhaps one of the terraces that we partnered with the Pulsating Institute while that to see if it was on my taxes? Since I do have some time, I do want to mention at Wilson Bar this Thursday, tomorrow from 6:30 to 9, there is a Livonia list, and also on Sunday, there is a USDF rated test tournament, so I'm moving to see ever connected. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will say Councilwoman Vizitsky's in Japan, so she might like your idea. Good evening, sir.
The Council Mayor, Ken Krager. I had a whole bunch of questions I was going to ask, but right at the end, Pat Moran spoke, and he said that the plans will not be finalized until the end of the year, and then they'll go out for bid to the contractors after the end of the year. So are we asking for the citizens of Livonia to pay for something we don't know what it looks like, and we don't know how much it's really going to cost. I do estimating, commercial heating and air conditioning estimating. I have a commercial company right here in Livonia, and my costs are going up every other week. There's no way that they can tell me they know it's going to cost $150 million to build all this. So if they are so sure, would they put that in writing and maybe even eat some of that cost if it went over? The 150 mil, it's got 150 when the costs do go over. Are we going to be coming for another mill to cover the cost overages? Or in that 50, I don't think we can. Are we going to be able to ask for more in that second phase, the 50? And then my last statement is I had to contest my property taxes when I bought my house about 5 years ago, the square footage discrepancy. While I was sitting waiting for my turn at the assessor's office, the elderly lady came out before me, just finished her appointment. She was crying because she was going to lose her house she lived in her whole life. I'm curious, how many people like her are you willing to sacrifice for this project?
Thank you, sir. And Shaker's name.
Sandra McClinsky, 17698 Factory Lane. As you know, I'm elderly, and I've talked to a lot of my neighbors. No one knows what I'm talking about when I say we're going to have a downtown area. So I would think it would be in the best interest of this city to be very transparent by sending out a letter to each household. If every household gets a water bill, tax bill, not everybody listens to the news or has a computer. Elderly people don't do all that stuff. So I think a letter would be your best, sort of best sign. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's under I can do it.
Hi, Patrick Gelman, 3302 Great Granada. Thank you. This is really exciting and important work to be done. But there's still some questions to be answered. If we're going to develop a downtown municipal buildings with some hope of having some more organic downtown-like community developed out of that, you need to answer some things. What's wrong with Nova? How can you avoid that? What about Canton? The theater down there seems to be doing well. We had something like that planted. But the downtown is kind of like a movie set. You know, somebody who grew up there says they made fun of the downtown. So we need to avoid these missteps. You also know I'm a big proponent for sustainability. When we build for the future, we need to be thinking about the planet and our children and our grandchildren. And some of these parks are reusable. So the Bennett Library has the 3 L's for a new cop shop, which they really need: patient, unteachable location. The old courthouse, nice little building with some imagination, could be used, and as a city hall library. It's easy and glib to say, oh, it costs a lot more to redo it. But when you're looking for that, we haven't asked for the work. I hope you all know that it depends on who you ask. It doesn't have to be people at Dean Pocket. Some Farmington Hills did a redo of their city hall. And so I think some of this have people perceive that we're using our resources widely, because this is a big ask. Just something to think of. Thanks.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, sir.
Hi, David Court, lifelong Livonia resident. Again, we led delaying it to a Ford rate. I was at the last meeting, and one of my comments was, why I suddenly hearing about this? Because this is I can't believe that you're going to actually vote to raise our taxes on a project that we don't know it's where to do buildings. You don't know where they're going to be. This is absolutely hitting the horse. The cart before the horse. This is ridiculous. I do believe that Mayor Brogdon is kind of doing a disservice to our people like me who are retired now and elderly people in the city of Livonia. You know why people move here? Because they can't afford the house. Why don't we look at what can we do to get younger people coming in? They can't afford the house. We own as a minute. So I think that this is where It's way too dangerous. It's kind of thing that the city really needs to step back under constant odds. And we need to get some concrete answers to the questions, or you start opening this ratings of taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Call. Robert Bigga, Livonia retiree, has active personality community.
A couple of thoughts here. You were saying that the current buildings are not being maintained properly, and that's why we have the issues that we have. What makes you think we're going to do any better in the future? What's going to change? The schools do have a sinking fund for maintenance. We don't. What land is going to be purchased, which is indicated in the bond proposal? So what land are we going to be purchasing? I thought this was all going to be the Civic Center development. I'd like to see some more details on the maintenance of Bennett Library, what the issues have been, what the current problems have been. And then in relation to the retiree health care, I keep hearing a mention that we're saving $2.4 million. I don't believe in that number. I don't understand it. I was the Human Resources Director. I was also instrumental in getting the pre-funding for post-employment health care benefits approved many years ago, and there was a shining star for the city. So if we're saving all this money, what happened? We went to self-insured rather than paying a premium. Why can't our Medicare Advantage also be self-insured? Why do we have to be paying a premium? And I always thought that our Medicare, our supplemental insurance was complementary to Medicare. Apparently it is not, that we were primary and not Medicare, but that's not the way it's been processed when I'm on in for services. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. Kenneth Floors, 20185 Inland Track at Livonia. First, it said City Hall and the library to be smaller. Was it stated what the size of the police station, how that was changing? I also like to know why is it so expensive. Seems like we're renovating all the fire departments for about 25% of the police station cost. In addition, the library is losing about a third of its square footage. What is being lost in that? Please. Let's see. So the police were getting a parking structure. Is there going to be a parking structure for all the other cars that be at the City Hall, the library, all this future building where people might be living? Where will they be parking? Let's see. Is there a priority to City Hall versus police versus library versus fire? If the money starts going over at one of them, is it going to get cut from the other? Let's see. Why an August vote? That sounds like it's trying to be snuck past people while they're off on vacation. Let's see. It was expected that the city taxable value will go up if the property values do not go up, because we had something like 2008. How is that going to affect us? It was mentioned, yes, we don't have really plans for what the library is going to like, what the City Hall is going to, and we're going to be asked to pay and give me lots of money for that without what do you go with this boring? Let's see. Oh. And if preceding city or councils had sold off properties,
Sir, that's time.
so you wouldn't have the property to keep things.
Thank you.
About that and saying this.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Frank Chetty, local Livonia resident and small business owner here in Livonia. I talked to some of my friends, these different people. One of my first questions, why are you trying to develop a downtown city area, keeping the city hall and police station here? And looking at this, you got about 2 acres for accounts. That's very small. I think what you're trying to do is get a new city hall and a new police station, but call the downtown development area. It doesn't seem right. I noticed that in the language of the millage, you can allocate funds to any other city building that's all. So if, for instance, you decide, oh, we're not going to build the white loop, we need to put another fire station in. Is that a bill? Can you do that? I'm curious if there was ever a thought to sell the property or give the property to a developer in exchange for them building a new city hall and police station. That's been done before for other cities. That might be an option. How many acres is going to be used for the housing and the businesses that wasn't on the slides? Are you said you're keeping the land, or you're leasing the land to them, so the city will continue to paying revenue every year, kind of like over like AMC Theater in Northville gets that from Crane Sag. As someone else said, I'm in construction. Buildings don't ever come in on budget. Projects cannot be forecasted. I think it's going to avoid that.
That's time.
Thank you.
Thank you. See. Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. I'm Joe Kersinski out of the 19488 Bainbridge Avenue. Apparently I'm in the top 85% of property tax, so I guess I have that going for me. But I am mostly concerned about other retirees and what percentage do we have of taxpayers that are defaulting on property tax and losing their homes in Livonia as part of this particular decision for raising the millage. Even though we do have a low millage rate, that might be part of the important work that our council needs to do is get something this done. I do have two other comments. What's the difference between a CFO and a finance director? Because apparently our finance director is already doing all those assignments right now, so I appreciate that. And the other part, last question, had to do with asset management of the existing facilities. I don't understand why that's not part of the responsibilities of the existing staff in City Hall today. So that's what I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, Sam.
Thank you. Lynn Mills, Plymouth Road. Livonia does a lot of things right. We're a bedroom community, lots of trees. I appreciate that. Low taxes. Downtowns usually grow up organically around railroad stations and waterway systems. We don't have that. I asked our family realtor, when people come to you and they want to buy a home in Livonia, what's the attraction? He said, ranch homes. People are buying down. They've had and it's retirees. So you guys say you want to attract young families. Retirees are coming back to Livonia. They want the ranch homes. They don't want to go up 2 flights of steps. When is Livonia going to fix the things that are wrong? I understand you all think 5 in Farmington needs fixing. What about the other places that needs fixing? East, Livonia, Plymouth Road corridor, the MG plazas. These are just some of the things that are wrong, but we have a lot going on. We have 2 hospitals. One's a major trauma hospital. We have 2 colleges, a university. We're not like other cities. We're Livonia. We're unique. We have, well, for better or worse, 2 Costco's, 2 Myers, 2 Walmarts, 2 Targets. I mean, why don't we embrace what we are and not try to be a failed Cherry Hill Village, a failed Novi? Why don't we just be us, please? I support safety. I don't support what you're going to be voting on. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I am Noah Joseph Fortune of 15351 Brookfield Street. I like to mention a couple comments, ask a couple questions. First of all, I think phase one of this plan is definitely a good idea, especially for our senior center. And I can definitely understand phase two regarding about our current situation with City Hall, given that, especially with foundation issues. Now, as far as phase three, I'm sure many of us here have addressed concerns regarding about how much this is going to cost total. As you've pretty much seen from a lot of the charts, it's going to cost $1.57 billion to fix, as far as repairs, when it seems like it's going to cost more for just building new buildings. But I do also have another question regarding about City Hall, the proposed plan to combine City Hall and both the Livonia Library into one. If this proposal does not go through as far as voting, what exactly are the plans for our new City Hall if this proposal does not go through? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your time.
Oh, goodness.
Hi, good evening, ma'am.
I'm Jennifer. I live on Covered. Anyway, I've lived here all my life, and then I was in Redford for a short time. I have a comment only about the library services in Livonia. I have 2 small young children. That's very important. That's on my radar. And I was invited here to talk about the library through an email. The library is very important to me. I go to the Livonia Library because it is very close to my home. If I had a choice, I'd be driving to Redford like 3 times out of the week because it's an inviting experience. It's colorful. So that's just my comment, is that whatever passes and whatever plans that we have for Livonia, I hope it includes a new library.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Denise Micah, 35354 Lancashire. There are a lot of questions tonight, and I wanted to, are we getting this, is this bit audio taped or anything? What's going on tonight? Because we have a lot of questions and we need a lot of answers. And when will those be published? The answers to all our questions. And that's what I would like to know. So, other than people nodding north and south, does anybody have an answer for that right now?
Well, we'll answer questions after all the audience communication. Thank you, miss. Hi, good evening, sir.
Hi, Ken Hart, 16788 Westbrook. I've been listening. There's a lot of activity. I, for one, want to commend the leadership of the mayor's office and city council to have the foresight to develop a new city center. I think building a new efficient city hall and library would be a great asset to the community. I also think that building a new police station and updating fire stations would also be a great asset to the community. And by doing this, I could see a lot more investment. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Mary Kay, and I'm at 29412 Oakley Street. And I just have a comment. I really commend all that has transpired tonight, and I understand you have done a lot of work on this. I was concerned, as other people have voiced about it. I'm not a lifelong Livonia resident. I moved here about 5 years ago. I moved to Livonia because it had a sense of safety and security and a sense of community, which I really appreciated. And I do understand the need for a larger police station. I myself, as a female, would not want to share faculties with men and bathroom space and whatever they are going, the female officers are going through. Also concerned about the fire departments and their safety with not being exposed to carcinogens, so they need safer space. But one thing I was concerned about was the shared space for the library and to save money. And I just have a comment. If Livonia is wanting to build a space for families and younger generations? Why are you taking away from space that is supposed to be a community space, which is your local library? The most libraries are expanding their services. Why are we sharing that with a city hall? And that's my only comment.
Thank you.
Your thought.
Any other audience communication? We'd love to hear comments from anybody. Going once.
Or if I could go ahead.
And now the second time. But if you do have comments or questions, you may be stage fright if you didn't think about it, please email citycouncil@livonia.gov. You can email us, and a number of us, our phone numbers are public on our website. Call us, text us, email us. So if you didn't help yet or think of something later on, please feel free to reach out. Mayor, I know council was talking about this. Could you issue some sort of like FAQ on the website, LivoniaBuilt.org or gov? I can't remember which order it is.
Thanks.
Just please.
Thanks, and pandemic of the week long this forum, because it really does help us to understand where there's either a lack of understanding in the presentation. I think definitely see some points that were made here and missed out there. So it really helps us to fine tune the message to people, hear what they need to hear, or they make responsive vision. I also love some of the constructive thoughts that get shared at this meeting. And we take all of it, and we will form some answers and for our FAQ. You might not hear exactly the questions that you heard tonight, but we'll try to group them together so that there is a better, so it all comes together in a really nice fashion.
Is that LivoniaBuilt.org?
We'll give it that.
LivoniaBuilt.org.
Okay.
And Mayor, there's a number of good questions out there that I simply can't address. We'd be here all night long and try to keep track, but something that did come out in council dive into was what happens if this village doesn't pass? And as someone that's been to all these meetings the last year and a half, there's been a ton of information shared. We cannot quite possibly answer all of your questions. A lot of questions that you asked tonight, we've talked about in detail for the last year and a half. And they're all publicly open on the website. We talk about it. We can't possibly reach out to every single person, let them know of every single meeting date. But they are open, they are public, and they're always posted on the city website. So it's impossible to compose all of that information the last year and a half, which really goes back to 2017 when the Livonia Vision 21 first started. There were dozens and dozens of meetings and thousands of people that participated. It's just impossible to talk about that all in one evening. But something that does stick out to me is what happens if this fails. Let's just say the council does ultimately approve the language, and if council approves the language, the next step is for the residents to vote yes or no. What happens to pass these things?
We don't talk a lot about failure. I'll be really honest. It's really imperative. We're going to have to help people to understand, and we're going to have to reach out to people that really want to see this happen. 70% of Livonia residents want to see this happen. That's a real number. We believe that number. But if in fact it doesn't pass, and we'll be back to talk about what that means for our community. We know what the obstacles are. We know no matter what, we have $107 million problem that our general fund can't solve to build it. And now that we know it, and can't unknow it, we're going to figure out how to fix it. But we're not spending time on fixing what happens if something goes wrong and this doesn't pass. We're spending all of our time assuring the legislature and getting this to mass.
Stick. Council questions for us here?
Yes. To the student and their cash.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm out of Red Bull. So, my question, just to add to a potential packet, obviously this is potentially coming to a next council meeting. I'd like to see if we could have proposed square footage for each of those buildings so I can correlate it against the proposed budget numbers. A high-level scope for what is being planned at the fire stations, 16 mil, seems, just from my initial look, seems a little low. But they're obviously, that's more of a rehab, staying in the footprint. Also, I know that there was a cost difference between
tear down and a remodel for the Bennett Library. I was wondering if there has been any studies done for a full gut rehab to repurpose the Bennett Library into a new city hall / library. And then the last question I do have is, has the geo been done on the proposed city hall location? Geotechnical, just to see some core samples, just to see, because that area right now, at least from what I've seen, is almost like a swampy area. And so we don't want to jump into something if the ground's going to cost a lot of money to rebuild. That's all I have right now. I appreciate everybody coming out and the info.
So what I'm here asking is the area where they're proposing towards City Hall, coding City Hall being the library.
Yep.
I do believe we did hire the survey company. Forget what their name is, but they're doing engineering work and or survey, Spalding detector. They're doing survey work and that geotechnical work and going out towards your say geo or council. Anything else? Anything else? I'm trying to think if I have any other questions. I think that's it. I guess the next procedural step. So we'll get for the residents to know what the city council does here. These are committee meetings where we just informally discuss these things. No votes are taken. The next procedural step to move forward, and someone mentioned it about recording and whatnot. In city council has brief forums, being study meetings and regular meetings. Those are large agendas with a lot of information. It's multiple. There's total business. We'll have, I think, on the 14th meeting, there's supposed to be 20 items on there. That's a normal course of business. We can't be there until 2 o'clock in the morning. Residents are going to stay. And so we do these committee meetings or breakout sessions to dive deeper into specific topics. So that's why these meetings are not recorded. They're not on TV, because when you're on TV, the reality is you're on TV and things are handled differently. So these are informal meetings meant to take a very in-depth look at this information on a specific topic. The next meeting is a study meeting, and that's where multiple topics are on there. We still talk about it. We're talking about all of some items. And then the regular meeting is where we actually vote. And if the city council will vote to approve this language, then that language will then go to the residents for a vote. So what I'm asking the council is to have the administration formally present this to us at a study meeting, which will be televised. So this item would say committee, unless there's something else that the council refers to. But what I'm asking for, as one council member, is to have administration. I recommend that you bring this item to us on the study meeting, which would be April 14th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We look forward to that opportunity. I really think I pointed this out at the beginning of the meeting. We spent 16 different meetings engaged this topic in over the past year to try out. Then I think you're all truly on top of what's happening for the decision the morning. And I think now it's April 14th meeting, we are really going to be very well prepared to bring up new other investment proposals of town. And the numbers are not going to change in the large amount. It is not going to change in the large amount. What you can expect at that meeting is a very high level but comprehensive view of what that bill is going to accomplish for a city area account. That's really important of that meeting.
Okay, and that study meeting is at 8 p.m. But like I said earlier, there's going to be a whole host of other issues on that study agenda. Council, any other recommendations or anything to get into the orders?
The only thing I wanted to mention for those who said that they really didn't know about this or hadn't been following this all along, all past minutes and agendas are posted at Livonia.gov and Livonia Your Government, those of that tab, and you can find them all. So you're looking to see what happened 3 committee meetings ago. Those minutes are posted. So just, if you need some library needs, it's out there.
Library.
Yeah.
Else, anything else, Mr. President? Next room, choice. Just administration.
Thank you.
Just a sprinkle. All right, this meeting will end at 9:26 p.m.
16, right?
We don't. So we'll never have what you want. But what is and isn't that it? I'm here. That's the I think.
I understand what you're
Yeah, here it is. So I don't think that's that. Yeah. Yeah. Is your video recording on? Thank you, man.